Welcome back to the Gamma Seeker broadcast. I am so delighted to be introducing you to Jordan today. Jordan is a mindful voice coach, and he brings a different way to approach the voice than I've had on here before. Last time we talked to Hillary Ginther about how opera singers train and professional opera singers approach the voice and resonate the voice. And as we talk about the breath and the ability to resonate the body, I think the more frameworks that we can share, the easier we can see the light of our own truth. So Jordan, thanks so much for joining me today. I want to start with a little bit of your background. Who are you? How did you fall in love with the voice? And where are you now?
Much training I did, my voice would still just get really, really fatigued and tired very quickly. So that's when I started getting more interested in wanting to learn kind of a different approach, like a new approach to singing. And I started learning from the top, I would say top 5 to 7 scientists and researchers in the field, like Kitty Bertolini's, Ken Bozeman, and Goteets. There's like Chadley Ballantyne, Lisa Pope-Heal. There's a handful of these really brilliant minds that are trying to push the whole music learning space forward. And I started learning from them. And then that's when I found a mentor who has been mentoring me for about a year and a half here in Thailand. Actually, he's an American that lives in Thailand. His name's Jay, and in my opinion, he's the GOAT. I've never met anybody like him. I've shadowed him like for many students and observing him teach. And I've never seen people get results like this. He's transformed my singing voice to like heights I never have ever experienced in my life that I could ever even dream of being. And he did it in such a short period. So he's really teaching me that singing doesn't have to be this thing that you got to commit, 3, 5, 7, 10 years to get really good. You can make this happen in a couple of years. You still have to put in a few years, but yeah, that's like a brief Cole's notes of my history. I've done lots of teacher training programs. I've done all the more the academic stuff as well and training my voice and whatnot, but I kind of skipped over that part. So
when you talk about this goat and his ability to transform, I'm assuming that that's the method that you've really been bringing into your business.
Yeah. So the mindful singers thing, it started because I've always been interested in yoga and breathwork and meditation and things like that. So I'm like, I was coming up with a name for my business. I'm like, oh, mindful singers, that's really cool. I looked into it. Nobody's got it. I'm like, hey, sweet. I want that name. So I went and bought the domain mindfulsingers.com, and it sort of started as that. And when I first started, it didn't really mean anything because I didn't have like a mindful singing approach. It was more like I was thrown into the deep end at a studio teaching 15 students, and it was like, figure it out. And I'm like, well, I'm a singer. Now I got to like reverse engineer what this even means. You know what I mean? So I had to start actually understanding, how the voice works, the anatomy, the acoustics. How do we get singers to have lasting results and not just in the studio space, to make sure that they can actually do this when I'm not holding their hand. You know what I mean? So then Jay's approach, he started teaching me how to teach people to make it like a long-term memory and to like really make it into like their subconscious and make it stick. So that was like something that really changed for me, and also giving me like a very systematic approach to follow, like having systems in place and having like an algorithm that I can follow in my mind and not just be, because I learned from the best of the best in the industry, and I was learning from these incredible coaches that are teaching all the stars, but I was just being a copycat, like most people. I was just copying. I didn't really know why I was doing it or what was happening, but I just knew it worked for a lot of people, and so I would just be a copycat. But Jay, he really taught me the depth to really understand what I'm doing and to have like logic and understanding and how to make a long-term memory for these singers.
Wow, that's so cool. You're speaking my language there. I'm all about sequencing. And as an athlete, what makes you better than the next guy is your ability to make the most out of that 2 hours or 5 hours of practice that you have. And, somebody that can make that time as efficient as possible to progress towards results is going to get more out of that. And they're going to be a little sharper. So it's nice that you have a sequence to kind of break people down. Is there any part of that sequence that you'd be willing to share a little bit? Like how you look or how you
Sure,
divide certain
sure.
phases of a voice?
Yeah, for sure. I'll actually talk about how we can make things like long term, like make it into a memory. So, what I've learned the more that I do this is that understanding the mechanics of your voice is useful, but it's not completely necessary. It's cool, like it's interesting to know, but the voice is so complex, and it's essentially you're tapping into the unconscious when you sing. So I love the saying that the voice is the muscle of the soul. So it responds to expression, and it's a very sincere instrument. So if you think your voice is what it is because of your larynx height, or you think it is what it is because of just one mechanic of the hundreds of things that are happening behind the scenes, quite frankly, thousands of things, because it's tapped into your vagus nerve and your entire nervous system. It's controlled through expression, which is unconscious. So when you start obsessing over small little things like that, you're focusing on the wrong things. But it is important to know. It's useful. It's useful to know, hey, if I drop my jaw, the high note might come out a little bit easier, and to have that awareness. But it's not worth just obsessing over and putting it on a pedestal and worshiping, like, this is the secret. Now I'm going to make a course called Drop Your Jaw. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that simple. The voice is quite complex. So anyways, what I have learned that helps singers make things really subconscious is obviously having a good mentor is important, so that they can start to develop that professional ear, and they can know the differences between sounds. So something that I love to implement in the studio is I love to have A/B tests for all different sounds. So if I'm going to teach them a breathy sound, I want them to know what a buzzy sound is. If I want to teach them a dark sound, they got to know what the bright sound is. They got to know the opposites of what they're doing, so that they have a frame of reference to refer to, and that really helps things stick a lot more. I have started steering away from using terminology like mixed voice, belt mix, chest voice, head voice, all these things. I still use them occasionally, but I like to give singers a description of the sound that they're making, so that when they're home alone, they're not going, "Is this mixed voice?" Like this arbitrary definition that describes so many different qualities of sound that the brain just gets so confused by. So I give them a definition. It's like, okay, we made these sounds and these different vowels and consonant combinations, and in this song, now let's have a description for it. Let's have, this was, a quiet, sad, buzzy, bright tone that we made, and having some sort of a description that they can come back to, and they can think about. And then when they're making that sound, I have them really close their eyes and feel the difference between silence and making the sound. They can feel the sensation. They can feel the nucleus of the sensation. There's a center to the energy that they're making when they start vocalizing. And then I teach them, how can you notice that sound and be observant of that feeling that that sound is creating, and come back to that awareness when you're singing. This is the importance of, like, the mindfulness, is just being present in your body, inviting whatever sounds that come out can come out. You don't have to be like a jerk to yourself. You don't have to bully yourself if you're not making the sounds you're intending, but observing, what does the sound sound like, and what does it feel like, and what was the expression that was behind the sound? Like, what was I expressing? And depending on the student, the expression part comes either first or a little bit later. For some people, if I throw an expression too soon, everything falls apart, or vice versa. So depending on the singer, their skill set, everything like that. So that's a part of the approach to help singers make it a longer term memory, as opposed to just being like, oh, your larynx was low, your soft palate was lifted, your
Yeah.
throat was open, blah 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 blah. Like, I want them to know the sound that they were making, what it sounded like, and what did it feel like. And then there's also an approach that is very unique that I take, and I learned it from a scientist called Ken Bozeman. He's a professor. It's called passive migration, and this is something. Have you heard of this before?
Mm-mm.
Passive migration. Okay, so this is something that professional singers do. They just don't realize they're doing it. And different coaches have different ways of approaching and teaching it. But the way that I teach it is, essentially, I have the singer make a sound. They close their eyes. They feel the sound, and then I don't, depending on what we're working on, because I like to keep the goals that we're working on really specific, and I don't want to give the student too much to juggle, because their fight or flight's going to kick in. They're going to get stressed out. They won't tell you, but they're going to hinder their learning. So I'll just focus on, can you keep that sensation you're experiencing on this note? Can you maintain that exact same sensation as we move around the notes? So
Oh, so
don't let the
body
sensation
tension.
move.
Okay.
So what I'm teaching them is, can you maintain a stable vocal tract as you move around your vocal range? So
Wow.
and you don't do this by going, hey, larynx, don't move, and soft palate, remain lifted. And you don't do it by micromanaging your mechanics. You do it by observing the sensation. And this works for, I'd say, 95+% of singers. You close your eyes, you observe the sensation where you started, and can you maintain that sensation as you move around your range, as you move around the melodies? Can you maintain the same sensation? And the result is you did not move your vocal tract. You kept everything stable. You kept a complete stable vocal tract. So your aerodynamics in your voice is extremely stable, which allows you to express more freely and feel like you have more control, which is exactly what it's doing. It's giving students more control.
Wow. So you're painting, you're giving color to the sound.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And at the golfer in me, when I think of sound, it's always like painting it in the sky. Like, where are you directing it? How does it fall?
Mm-hmm.
How does it like land at the end?
Yeah.
So everything that you just added is so beautiful. I love that.
Mm-hmm. It's a different approach. And so an earlier mentor of mine about 3 years ago, his name was Dan. I met him through an organization called IVTOM. And IVTOM is an offspring of speech level singing. When speech level singing separated in 2013, IVTOM was one of the organizations that came about to continue teaching on like Seth Riggs. He was like the grand master of contemporary vocal coaching for many, many, many years. Have you heard of Seth Riggs? Seth
Mm-mm.
Riggs? No? Okay. Yeah, he was the GOAT for many, many years. I think he's 93 now. He still teaches, which is incredible.
You
And
must love it.
he loves it so much. Yeah. So he was the GOAT of contemporary vocal coaching. He taught all the stars, Michael Jackson, all the top stars. And then when his organization went off, created a whole bunch of others. They did speech level singing. They separated into a bunch of other organizations. I met Dan through IVTOM. Dan was the one who, interestingly enough, I came in to learn about speech level singing and like that kind of approach. And then he was the one who was like, hey, you should probably question everything and start looking into all these researchers and scientists. And like, so he kind of, it was interesting because he was kind of like the black sheep that nobody knew was like, anyways. So
The
he started
wizard. I get it.
the wizard. So he started introducing me to all these really, really cool concepts and people and interesting things. And then I started talking within the vocal coaching community and singing teaching community about this. And I started realizing everybody was so scared of it. Everyone was just afraid of the science. You're like, oh, science just like takes away from artistry and all this stuff. Like, I'm just going to continue teaching the dogmatic approach that's been around for 500 years and I won't change anything and question anything. And I'm just like, okay. Like the skeptic in me is like, all right, you do you. So that's when the universe brought me to Jay. Like I met a really famous singer in Thailand through my social media page. I reached out to him. I was like, hey, I'm moving to Thailand. Who's like the top dog? Who's like the guy? And he's like, oh, these people. And I was like, okay. So I reached out to the one guy. He reached out to me. He's like, hey, I want to do a workshop with you. I really like what you're doing. I know you're like, he just watched my content. He's like, I know you're learning from these scientists. I can tell. He's like, this is my fucking thing. This is my jam. Like, I'm all about making all of this incredibly complex science practical and like teaching it in a really intentional way that's going to help people get like incredible results. And I was like, I found my guru. So he was the first person to tell me, like, listen, dude, you're cool. You got a lot of enthusiasm and charisma, but like, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, and I loved it. I was like, oh, thank you. Nobody tells me that. Everybody just says I'm great and blah, blah, blah. So he's the one who like made me kind of start from zero again and like learn how to properly do this in a really, really good way. That's having results I could have never, ever dreamed of. And it's my content's been attracting clients that I never, ever would have dreamed of working with in my life. Like I can't say on the air, but like mega stars, like people who fill stadiums across the world who are like, if I mention their name, you'd be like, everybody fucking knows who they are. But I never, ever dreamed of working with these people. And I wouldn't have been able to if it wasn't for the approach that I've been learning and I still am learning. And
That's amazing.
yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. It's so cool. It's so much fun. The results I'm seeing singers get are blowing my fucking mind. And that's why I'm so interested in what you're doing, because I'm like, I know what you're doing is so important. And it's going to help me also get people even better results, because I know how incredibly important tapping into the nervous system is and the vagus nerve and calming everything down and opening things up. And the thing is that even in like the science community, there's also limitations where like they don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole because they've got their studies, and their studies mostly on the shape of the vocal tract and the shape of like, is the root of the tongue completely relaxed? Are overtones able to come through? Overtone singing, all this kind of stuff, which is fantastic. but I do know that the body is also a part of this incredibly complex system, and it has to be dialed in as well. So that's why I like your approach, because you make it simple and you make it digestible. It's not like incredibly overwhelming and complex. It's you're teaching it in a way that people can actually process and learn.
You know, the gap, I think, too, for a performing artist that's just starting to break into the scene is that feeling when you come up on stage and
Mm-hmm.
like learning how to navigate the adrenaline rush and how to
Yeah.
prepare for the adrenaline rush that happens before the show and
Mm.
after the show, and having a
Yeah.
means to navigate the nervous system like as you're in the heat of it. And
Yeah.
like my big indicator for people is it's like you spread your toes, you take a mighty breath, you feel the pelvic floor, you slow your breath rate down as much as possible, and you
Mm-hmm.
absorb the moment instead of panicking. Started to rapid
Yeah.
breathe, and you kind of disassociate to the feeling, and you can get stuck in the
Mm.
thoughts. I think the breath is
Yeah.
truly this, like, it's our soul, and when we make space for it, we can kind of embody, like, our field gets bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we
Totally.
get into like the newness of the fascia, the biofield, this electromagnetic structure that exists
Mm-hmm.
outside of us,
Yeah.
this is what we really want to have be big and beautiful
Mm.
and
Yeah.
strong. It's not
Yeah.
just our muscles, it's this thing that's charged and comes out of us. And
Yeah.
I think the voice is a huge ingredient to feeling our power and feeling that mightiness and controlling how
Yes.
we show up
Fuck
in
yeah.
our expression.
Yeah.
I joke a
Yeah.
lot. I'm like, I just want to be the gateway drug to singing and chanting. You know, like I just want
Yeah.
to get people ready for this feeling of sound
Yeah.
too. Like I like that you're approaching it from a texture point of view, because a lot of people get stuck in the frequency
Yeah.
monitors
Yeah.
and they're trying to control a pitch to its very littlest
Yeah.
vibration. And it
Sure.
it
It's so
makes you,
subjective.
yeah, versus the heart and soul of the sound,
Mm.
feeling it in the body, being kind of
Yeah.
fearless about where it comes out.
Yeah.
Um,
Can I share something with you? I think this is really
please.
important, and it's so important why your work is so bloody important for the industry. A lot of singers have vocal pathologies, professional singers. They don't want to tell you, they don't want to share it. The record label won't let them tell anyone. It's a secret. But a lot of singers have neurological pathologies, and they have nervous system pathologies that are affecting their voices, like vocal fold paresis and muscle tension dysphonia, spasmodic dysphonia. There's many neurological issues that are happening, and I believe a big part of this is stress, and people have no idea how to handle the stresses that come with being a professional musician. People have no idea. 2 hours of sleep a night, a show every day, a podcast in the afternoon, and then an interview, and then they're flying to a different time zone and they're doing it all over for months at a time, and not having tools to like manage their nervous system and their stress. It's really important work that you're doing, like for real.
Yeah, I'm excited because I built it for me. Like these are the sequences that I used when I was on tour as a golfer and on tour as a singer, and like I really appreciate that reinforcement, because I never
Yeah.
thought that these sequences would take off, and to see that
Mm-hmm.
they're, you know, somebody can just throw a ball in their bag and it's just very low key. They don't have to make a big commitment. So
Mm-hmm.
thanks. I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
a few more questions and
Sure.
see if we
Yeah.
can kind of get the beginner singers, people that watch my channel that want to sing, that have been nervous too, that have been looking for a
Yeah.
coach.
Sure.
So, what is your best tip for a beginner singer?
My best tip for a beginner singer?
Mm-hmm. Boiling
Shit.
down all that vat of
Such a big
knowledge.
question. My brain's going, oh my gosh, there's so many different types of beginners. But
They've been told that they can't sing.
okay. Okay, the reason you're probably singing out of tune is you're singing too loud.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And you need to understand the difference between breathiness and resonance, like clarity in the sound and breathiness. And you got to understand too that resonance and clarity in your sound can be made at every single volume. So it doesn't have to be at like an 8 or a 7 or a 6 or whatever. It can be at a 2. You can still hear the overtones coming through and the resonance in your voice at a very low volume. So for years and years and years, I was always addressing, for example, pitch issues. That's usually the number one issue for singers is pitch. I was addressing this issue by just trying to get them to like go through every single note. Oh, my piano's not on, but just going through every single note individually and trying to match it. And what I started learning is for most singers, it's actually just because they're singing too loud. They need to learn how to reduce their volume while maintaining clarity in the sound. Okay, and so this is pitch dependent as well. So you got to get comfortable singing in that lower register with clarity. So you don't want to be singing like this and really light and breathy. You still want to have that clarity in your sound. And I think that's something that singers can start with is drop the volume, learn how to sing with clarity and resonance in your tone without being loud. And that's going to fix most of your pitch issues, okay? And learning to track the feeling of the sound, okay? The results I've seen with this are fucking wild. Like if you sing this note, let me show you. If you go it's 6:30 a.m. here, by the way. I haven't sang today, but if you go breathy or resonant and buzzy, okay. So now you want to feel that sound. Let me go here. Feel the resonance, feel the buzz. Maintain the same location to the pitch. Feel the same sensation on each note, and you'll notice your pitch and your control of your voice will improve really, 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 really fast. Like really fast.
You keep pointing to the upper cervical spine here. Are you talking about feeling the vibrations centered through the column of the body? Like, so it's even.
Yep. Yeah. So don't even think in terms of chest voice and head voice. Think in terms of when I close my eyes and I feel wherever I am feeling the sensation of the sound, it's subjective. This is why I don't teach placement, because it's a subjective experience. So close your eyes, feel the feeling. It's called palesthesia. It's the internal sensation of sound. Okay. Feel the sensation. Notice where you feel the vibration. If you feel very closely, you can notice there's almost a center to the energy. There's like a nucleus. Now, this is where it gets a little bit, you got to really go deep. It turns into almost a meditation. As you move between the pitches, the energy itself changes, but the center to where the energy is located remains the same. Okay? You're going to have to go in and do some, go slow with this, take your time. You're going to have to feel it and notice it. This took me forever because this isn't the type of learner I am. I'm not I had to learn how to be like this. You feel the center, almost imagine, where is the center of the sound? Where is the center of the energy of the sound? And maintain that. Like I said, as you move up and down in your range, the energy itself will feel like it's changing a little bit, but the center remains in the same location the whole time. Okay. I hope that makes sense. I'm sure if you do this every day for a while, you will start to tune into this awareness within your own body. And if you can maintain that, you're going to start to notice you get a lot of control of your voice very quickly.
That is a real treasure nugget. I really appreciate that. I haven't been brought into the center. I'm often singing so loud, like the tip that you gave. I'm like, well, that's for me. I sing so loud and it's out of control. Like for me, it's a column of energy that goes, from the base, through the head, resonant. And it's like you're bringing it all the way back to the center of the fire. And it almost feels like a spinning, circulating, that's fun to play with.
You're 100%. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, you fucking hit the nail on the head. Yeah, you picked it up right away. That's great. Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like there's this ball of energy inside of you. And it's just, and then your goal is you want to maintain that energy, because the result of maintaining that energy, keeping that core the same as you move around your range, is you keep your vocal tract stable. Very, very stable. The reason a lot of singers feel like they're out of control of their voice is because their larynx moving all around, their inner muscles are moving all around. There's so many changes happening. And as you change the aerodynamics of your voice, the air pressure changes, the airflow, everything's changing. So it's important to learn how to do this. And you'll learn when you listen to the best singers, you'll start to notice, oh, they do maintain a really stable sound. That's what that is. Mm-hmm. That's what you're hearing. Yeah.
That's so
it's really cool.
Simple. Like when I learned how to swing a golf club, you have to learn how to keep your head stable so that you don't change the center of your of gravity, so that when you hit the ball, you're always hitting it in the same spot. The way that you just described that, all my time with vocal coaches, nobody's ever explained it to me like that. That's a real gift.
Nobody. And it's because I'm learning from the researchers and the scientists. And I'm learning from these people who also make things really, really complex. But I'm lucky because I also have Jay, who can help translate this really complex shit. He's basically an SLP, voice teacher, voice scientist, without the accreditation of a voice scientist, because he's so incredibly obsessed.
It's funny
Because
how
he'll watch this, he'll be like, "You said I'm a scientist. I'm not a scientist." I just fucking love reading all the research papers and studying it and making it practical.
well, that's an art. That's an art to
Mhm,
translate for the scientist because it does get lost
mhm.
in the sauce. And without that extra connection, there's no
Yeah.
bridge often for people where we make it real. So,
Yeah, totally.
um,
And one last thing, he
mhm,
doesn't subjectify anything. If he has an idea, maybe he picked up something anecdotally in his studio from working from students, he goes and confirms it with a scientist. So he consults with them and he tells them his findings, and then they do more research. So he's not just, a lot of the times people will read a book and then they'll just kind of make their own version of it and then they'll kind of subjectify it. He's not doing that.
so he's always
Just want to
refining
make
it.
that, he's refining it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's not subject, he's making sure that he's always checking in with the researchers if he has a question, even if I have a question, because I stump him often. I'm a very skeptical deep thinker, and I throw him off a lot, and he's like, "Oh yeah, good question," and he goes directly to the researchers and talks to them about it. He doesn't just make up his own answer. So it's
I
good.
love that.
Hmm.
Wow. I feel like that's what the good scientists in my like in the fashion niche are doing is it's a cross pollination of like I've been doing this. What about you? How where was the
Hmm.
sticking point with this?
Yeah.
What's the weirdest or most unconventional vocal technique that you use with clients?
The weirdest or most unconventional?
Yeah, just something
Hmm.
that you do that may
Okay.
be a little odd.
Yeah. Okay, so this is going to sound so simple. You'll hear me say this and be like, "Oh, why is that so strange?" But I use a lot of R sounds in my training. Like a hard American R. Yeah, I come from the country. The reason I use R is because they use that for overtone singing.
Mm-hmm.
So Wolfgang Sauss is like, Wolfgang Sauss from Germany. He's like the leader in the world for overtone singing. So, which overtone singing is a very ancient art and it's very healing frequencies.
Yes.
So they use the R consonant, which I almost consider a vowel because it's very similar to a vowel, but they use the R consonant very often. And the reason I do this is I use it to raise the pillar of the tongue and to create space in here. So the overtones that you hear in overtone singing they're created in the space where the root of the tongue is existing. And this is something nobody talks about. It's almost blasphemy to discuss the tongue. Like never control the tongue. So, anyways, but I use the sounds to control the tongue. So I use the R sounds a lot in my training, and it gets really good results with singers.
Huh. That's really
Hmm.
beautiful. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about overtone? Because I love overtone singing, and I'm going to
Hmm.
be having Terrence Leon. He's like
Yeah.
a Canadian overtone singer that's like Mongolian looking. He's
Cool.
beautiful, and he sings in. He's been doing all of these like runes and ancient chants, but he's this big burly singer. And
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk to him just about his process. But can you
Cool.
indulge us, like overtone singing, how it happens, maybe demonstrate. You like, oh, you
Yeah.
touched it there for a second.
Yeah, a little bit. I have to be transparent. I'm not an overtone singer. I know how to hear the overtones and listen for the overtones, and that's a part of my coaching. I'm listening. Can I hear the overtones ringing when the singer is singing? That tells me that the root of the tongue is relaxed, and I can tell that their voice is in a good place. Um, Overtones, quite frankly, Brooke, I'm just not the guy to talk about it. I'm like my knowledge is so limited that I would just feel like
Yeah.
a imposter.
Yeah, that's
But
okay. And
talk to me in a year or two, and I'm sure
okay.
we'll have a really good chat about that. Yeah.
I've been learning them on and off. There's been a few breakthroughs where I'm like, yes, I did it. And then tried to
Yeah.
replicate it and, haven't found that relaxation point where I can really
Hmm.
center in on it. And I've been doing
Yeah.
the N sound in order
Oh, like that.
to,
Like
to
and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, more of that.
Okay.
But
Have you tried that? Like,
so
that's just an R. So I'm moving
R,
between the
okay.
vowels, but my tongue is remaining in like in an R position. So
Yeah.
a really hard
Er.
R where it's slid back and raised up. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then I'm going through the vowels. I'm just moving the tongue to the vowels. So the root of the tongue's moving to the vowels. But
Really
I'm not
good
really
for
changing.
early in the
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, yeah. I've had to learn to sing really early. I got to start teaching some days at 6 a.m. So I get up at 4:30. Uh, It's
That's
okay though.
so,
I have
yeah.
a toddler. He's up early. So, yeah.
um, so in my experience with learning from different coaches, the way that they
Hmm.
teach the breath is very different, like different styles,
Yeah.
different ways, but all kind of producing a similar result. How do you
Yeah.
teach the breath shape?
The breath shape, I teach them to pretend that they're sniffing the air.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have them sniff the air. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I teach them where the inhalation ends, the vocalizing begins. So they sniff the air. When the inhalation comes to its peak, they begin vocalizing.
Mm.
Yeah. And this is also a reason why I want to learn more from you, because you go more into depth from the breathing perspective. Not to, pour shade on any teaching method, but a lot of the contemporary teaching methods don't go into breathing. They just assume that the breathing will happen automatically. And I'm also one of those people who have learned from a lot of these contemporary ways of learning, where I'm going outward and I'm wanting to learn from people like yourself to learn more about the breathing, because I think that that's very, very important and it gets disregarded way too much in our industry.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I feel like the playful way in which I teach it is the athletic approach. So we don't
Okay.
even vocalize. It's like you lay on your back, and laying on the back, I think, is a very overlooked
Mm-hmm.
way to get people into the diaphragm breathing.
Yeah.
And we place a weight on the tummy. Like, so my singers
Yeah.
that are really
Sure.
training, it means 10, 25 pounds on the tummy.
Okay.
And then if they're doing belt training, it'll be a big deep breath through the nose. Then as the front of the belly fills up first, then the back of the belly, right? And we're just talking the diaphragm. So they
Yeah.
know that they're not just pushing the abs out.
Mm-hmm.
We're inhaling deeply through the nose with the tongue in a lifted position. So the posterior of the tongue, the back third, is lifted. That way the nasal
Mm-hmm.
glands can, like, soft palate gets sucked down. There's a bit of a drain. And then as the air comes forward into the belly, it fills the forward part, then the back part of the belly, then up through the back, sides, and then chest. And then the
Mm-hmm.
hardest part to teach people, the thing that, like, the weight serves the purpose, is as we release the air, we want to keep the weight up as long as possible, teaching the intercostals to press down like an accordion. And this gives us epic
Mm-hmm.
control over our pressure, like the air
Mm-hmm.
pressure. Because if we
Mm-hmm.
take a good deep breath, right, and then we
Mm-hmm.
start belting and we give away the power at the diaphragm, all we have left is the air, because gas loves to rise. We only have the air at the top part of the lungs, but we don't
Yeah.
have much muscles to push down. So it's like we lost all of that power. So we train
Mm-hmm.
the openness of the muscles that pump the lungs, and then we
Yeah.
teach the awareness. It's like we have to learn how to control the muscles more subtle. So we create expansion, and then instead of them acting as one unit, we start to kind of separate. We make it more fluid within the body.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes very easy when you lay them on the back. You can just have an exercise of, on one breath, how many numbers can you count? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It becomes an articulation exercise. Potentially, it could be
Yeah.
done in any language. And the goal is
Mm-hmm.
getting to, that full 60 seconds. That
Mm-hmm.
way, if you're capable of a 35-second belt, you can sing almost any song that's ever going to be presented to you,
Sure.
and that is
Yeah.
learning how to take that big deep inhale. And it's a fast inhale, like, it's depending on the
Mm-hmm.
genre of music, you might only have a second before you need to be ready for that next verse.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
keeping
Is
the
it a
nasal,
nasal or a mouth inhale?
i
Nasal inhale?
tr- I train all nasal, and I know that
Mm-hmm.
in singing, particularly performance, it's very hard to get out of the habit of that deep mouth breath. But on recording, it actually really matters. You can hear the sound
Yeah.
engineers
Yeah.
will have to cut that out. So I really like
Yeah.
training singers to stay in the nose, because it also takes pressure off the lung field. The mouth
Mm.
is meant for eating. The nose is really built, when we look at the physiology, to condition the air that passes through. So it takes as much
Mm-hmm.
pressure off the lungs as possible.
Yeah. Cool.
So.
Cool. Are there any like scientists or researchers in the field of like breathing and singing that you'd recommend?
Wow. Um, Not right off the top of my head.
Yeah, let me
Ironically,
know.
I've been studying a lot more free divers lately. because of the continued look at detoxing the lung pathways. I would say that I'm looking at a lot more doctors that are studying how to detox the lungs right now. Different herbs that they're using to help create that slipperiness with people, particularly coming off of vapes. Like, so how do we, heal the lungs from vapes? I've been looking into that kind of stuff. I've been sad to say that I haven't found much in the singing world in this. I would call the breath an esoteric study for singers. Like
it's limited. It's so limited. Even like in the world, there's maybe 10 researchers for the breath, for the breathe, or the singing. Pardon me. It's such a small, and most of them are like they're getting really up there in the age. I don't know who's going to carry the torch.
As you and me, bud.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to become a voice researcher in my 40s, guaranteed.
Well, I mean, the information age and all of the new medical equipment that's coming out. Like, have you ever seen that MFRI of people doing overtones from the side where they show the digital of like where the tongue placement is? That
tongue's making those staircases and stuff.
Yes.
It's wild.
That resolves some issues. Yeah, it's like, how did you even teach your tongue to turn into a staircase? That makes no sense to me.
And like one of the greatest in the world, I'm not going to say his name, but one of the greatest in the world of overtone singing, he's a bit of a gatekeeper. Yeah, and
that's okay.
Why do we gatekeep this stuff? Why do we gatekeep it?
It's a pocket of time. I feel like I'm gatekeeping my stuff too, like it's behind a paywall in a way.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, you got to pay a lot of money. You got to pay a lot of money to learn. It's maybe there. I think the fear is like somebody put in 20 years into learning something, and then they're like, I don't want to just give it away.
But 20 years from now, like they might. And that's the beauty of like philanthropy is it kind of catches up to us when we're old and we just want to see the world get better. And, I don't know, I'm always hopeful that people that want to see the culture like get better, they will share.
True. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. He's at an age where he does still have 20 years, so he should be okay.
Do you ever recommend body exercises to help someone empower their voice?
Body exercises like stretches,
like that? Or body awareness, anything like that, like how the full body interplays in the voice. Like, do you have
not so much? No, it's mostly just like the actual vocal tract itself. And like what we discussed about the feelings. Definitely I'm an open book. I feel like I'll be a forever student, so I'm open to learning.
When I interviewed Hillary Ginther, she's a world-renowned opera singer. I just love her. Big, mighty voice. She has to kind of like get her body warm to get into that resonant channel because it's such a taxing thing for her to be, in a corset, in a dress, on stage, ready to belt like for that kind of period of time. So I was just curious.
What does she do to warm up her body? Does she do some like cardio or stretches, or what does she do?
She does a lot of stretches. She's a big fan of yoga, and she specifically gets like she has to feel her pelvic floor. So for her, she's not fully active unless the foot and the pelvic floor are kind of like alive and awake. So when she is in full belt, the pelvic floor is assisting her in moving the energy up. And her and I have a lot of similarity that way because in my Mighty Breath course, like level 2, I don't teach it. Level 1 is all about getting into the shape, detoxing the lung field, understanding our tension. Then level 2 is about coordinating the diaphragm's movement with the pelvic floor. And when we do that, we're creating I call it minimum and maximum on the internal organs. And we're actually like vastly improving the massage on our internal organs. So people that have a lot of digestive issues or bloating issues, or like kind of they can't feel anymore the bowl of their hips, or like, some things have gone offline. This helps reactivate it because every breath now becomes shaped. It becomes a compression on the intestines, and then an expansion, and then a compression, and then an expansion.
Cool.
And it's different than how we teach the breath in America. Like a lot of the pelvic floor teachers out here are specializing in postpartum. And in postpartum, like when women are healing, they often cue the diaphragm to work in conjunction. So it's not a compression and a release. It's more of just like a subtle movement. And neither way is good or bad, but as a singer, And as somebody who wants to build power in the body, that
Yeah.
expansion and compression within
Yeah.
our internal systems is what we're looking for to produce energy. So
Yeah.
it's cool to hear her riff about, when she's on stage, and she's, day 3 of a performance, and she's got to kind of
Yeah.
pull it into the body, the little tools that she uses to kind of
Yeah.
pull it back through the energy, all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
energy of the sound. Absolutely. And Jordan, it's been a real pleasure. Thanks for taking time out of your life for this pocket of time for us. Okay.